Big meaty hooks. Big meaty hooks. I'm throwing big meaty hooks, so damn them not. Throwing big meaty hooks. Big meaty hooks. Big meaty hooks. I'm throwing big meaty hooks, so damn them not. Throwing big meaty hooks.
It's time for the Big Meaty Hooks tier list. That's right. Today we are going to be discussing the UFC fighters that have the biggest, meatiest hooks in all of MMA. Now, let me just explain what I mean by that, okay? Because I feel like some people might be a little bit confused of what the heck does that even mean, Lucas? Well, you know how boxing coaches will often say, take the meat off of your punches. Take the meat off your punches, kid. If you've got meat on your punches, it means that you're just putting everything into it. That, hey, where's, save your effort. Let the technique do the work. Let the technique do the work. No, that's not what a big meaty hook is. A big meaty hook is when you let the fucking rage do the work. And you let just, you tense up your whole body. See, they want you loose. They want you loose. They want you to flow. They want you like Anderson Silva. They want you to sting like a butterfly and float like a bee. That's not what you're doing if you're throwing big meaty hooks. You got to tense your whole body up. You got to flex as hard as possible. You got to bite down on the mouthpiece, look to the canvas, hope and pray that whatever you throw in the motion of what you think a hook is going to knock your opponent the fuck out. That's what a big meaty hook is. And so for that matter, we're starting this one off with the S tier. I'm going to say Josh Emmett's in the S tier. We got to put him in the S tier. Josh Emmett has what may be the biggest hook in human history. Now, I understand that there's guys like Joe Pyfer running around saying they hit hard, but it's the right hand of Joe Pyfer. It's not necessarily the hook. And I know that the right hand can also be a right hook, but you get my point. Josh Emmett, there's no one else that has the same sort of torque or the same sort of rage, icy red mentality. It's the epitome of just physicality and that's it. Just freaking hammering everything into it. When you go to a boxing gym, they tell you don't put everything into this, man. It's about technique. You got to torque your hips. You got to twist your feet. Josh Emmett doesn't do any of that bullshit, all right? Josh Emmett has the ugliest striking I've seen at the highest level of a lighter weight class. Yet, despite the fact that he's up against guys that are 10 times better than him, well, are they 10 times better than him? Because let me just say this. I think that sometimes people get this confused. They say skills, and they kind of confuse it with technique. Josh Emmett's skill set is biting down, looking to the canvas, dipping his head, and coming over the top with a big one. Just freaking tosses it over the top like a sack of potatoes. Josh Emmett tosses it over the top, right? And the thing is, you don't want to get hit by one of those fuckers. Now, here's the thing. It's amazing that this dude, if you see him actually train in the gym, he's got some good combinations on the pads. He looks like he's flowing. He looks like he's throwing long-rangey combinations. He's got good technique, but when it comes down to a fight, you can kiss that technique goodbye with Josh Emmett. As I said, man, you get in front of this guy, he's like a freaking bull, dude. You don't want to sit in front of him. So I'm going to put big meaty hooks Josh Emmett at the freaking number one spot, S tier, just because, again, this dude's whole career has been built off of this. All right? It's amazing. Like, you can go to the gym, you can train for 10 years straight. You can sleep well, you can eat well, you can be a great athlete, you can learn from the best. You could go to Freddie, whatever the fuck the boxer's name is, Freddie Roach. You can go to Freddie Roach all you want. You could be as technical as you want. You get in front of Josh Emmett. I don't care. You're probably toast. S tier, we're putting Conor McGregor in the S tier. Now, I know Conor McGregor used to be this finesse striker that used to do all this touch butt in the park, and he has the perfect clean left hand, and he was the master at keeping distance. And, of course, Coach Kavanaugh said he was going to go into that Dustin Poirier rematch, and we were going to see something even better than the Eddie Alvarez performances. But these days, we see Conor McGregor because we know he doesn't want to put in the hard rounds. We know Conor McGregor doesn't actually want to push himself. What they do is they get one of his yes men coaches. They call him up before the gym. They say, hey, bring the round pad. Bring the round pad. This guy's going to go bonkers. Bring the biggest can you got, right? Because Conor McGregor loves sparring his cans, all right? And they say, how big? How big is the round pad today? They say it's pretty big. Get the biggest one you can. Now, of course, if you know the round pad that Conor McGregor hits, it's one of these things. You always see him hitting it on his Instagram, and he'll have some caption like, people woke up to the sound of gunshots this morning or something like that, in a very aggressive manner, when it's like the laziest, easiest thing to do in the gym. It's, you don't need any accuracy. You don't need any pinpoint ability. That there's no tacticality. It's just pure, just bite down and freaking grit it out and throw as hard as you can. And McGregor feels good. So the coaches bring in the biggest round pad they can for McGregor to sit right there and just throw as hard and as big as he can. And he does it while listening to house music, and you've got people in the back clapping for him. And it's just a big party out there when Conor McGregor's hitting the round pad. And, you know, if you're really there to just boost your ego, you just love the sound that the punches make on the pad. And Conor McGregor absolutely loves that. It kind of lets him know that I'm still in this thing. I'm still in this thing. If I can hear a big crack after I land a hook, then that means I'm doing something right. Now, of course, he's about to find out the hard way when he gets knocked out by Michael Chandler. But, you know, at least for now, McGregor's boosting his ego, turning tomato red while throwing big, meaty hooks on the round pad. Heading down to the C tier, that's right, go crafty old Jack Hermansson. Jack Hermansson, he's the epitome of a guy that's just all based on technique, and he does everything by the book. He takes the meat off of his punches, and, you know, he's good, he's great, he's phenomenal, actually. Jack Hermansson might be the most skilled striker that ever walked the earth. It's just that, I mean, there's just no sting on these. And it's not even the technique. That's not the only thing. It's just, you know, the force that he has before these shots or with these shots. There's just nothing there. He's fast. He's like a Jack Russell, Jack Hermansson, but he's just got no sting. All right, he's got no pop. As I've said in the past, if there's any guy that I really do feel like, any of the heavier guys that I can sit in front of and actually fight, and I'm talking tooth and nail, bite down on the mouthpiece. Now I'm getting my ass kicked. But I don't think I get KO'd by Jack Hermansson's best right hand. I'm being honest. Like, it's crazy. You guys will sit here and tell me big Paulo Costa, who I'm going to end up putting in the B tier because he puts a lot of meat on the punches, but there's just no sting. There's just a bunch of thud. At least he's got some thud. But we'll admit that Paulo Costa doesn't really hit that hard, right? But Jack Hermansson, who probably has like 50% of the power of Paulo Costa, which is like a lot less, and Paulo Costa doesn't even hit people that hard and doesn't even KO people with one punch. You'll just say, oh, Lucas, you'd get KO'd by Jack Hermansson. Why? Because he's a UFC fighter? People act like, again, for some reason, if you're a UFC fighter, you just have automatic KO power. I just don't think that's the case. There's plenty of guys with pillow hands. But even the pillow-handed guys, according to fans, could knock out a normal person. Why? Because normal people just have paper heads. They don't have regular skulls. Quit the bullshit. Jack Hermansson would beat my ass, but he doesn't have any meat on the shots. And I just don't feel like I'd have to fear much outside of the ground game and outside of, you know, getting calf kick TKO'd. He would definitely calf kick He would definitely calf kick TKO me. And he might swarm me. I might have, you know, to deal with the often onslaught of crafty Jack Hermansson and his great boxing. He's honestly one of the best boxers in MMA history. It's just you would never know because he's not cracking fools hard. I mean, don't get me wrong. Jack's crafty, okay? But again, what does crafty mean? If you're crafty, that's kind of a cope for you ain't got no physicality, son. Back to the S tier, we're going to go with Trevor Peak. You know, sometimes people honestly think that it takes a lot to go out there, but it takes guts, it takes balls, absolutely. But when it comes to having success, if you've got a freaking hard noggin and you're going to freaking bite down on the mouthpiece and just go, you're going to be able to slug it out. All right. And, you know, there's something to be said about a guy that just goes out there and fucking does it. And I really do think that Trevor Peak is a perfect example of that. He doesn't have the best technique. He's not really a great boxer. He's not really a great kickboxer, but he sees red. He's got a granite chin. He's tough as fuck. He reminds me of like a bull in a cartoon that has the steam coming out of its nose. And you hear it make a noise and it sounds like a freight train. That's kind of like Trevor Peak. And Trevor Peak just goes out there in pure rage. And he just lets his hooks go, man. And it's a thing of beauty. Now, again, they're ugly as hell. They're freaking ugly. And a boxing coach may throw a fit while watching it, but they're effective. And to the average fighter, the average guy that trains, you just can't stand in front of him, right? On to the next one. I'm going to put Alex Pereira in our best hooks tier. Okay, now this is the real S tier for hooks. This is no meat though. All right, because Alex Pereira has amazing technique and he's got phenomenal power. But just because he's got power doesn't mean it's just a big meaty hook. He's not just throwing everything into it. He's getting the power from his technique. All right, Alex Pereira doesn't look like he's freaking ragefully throwing a left hook. It's just too technical to be in the true S tier where Josh Emmett, the king, lands. But let's be honest, The best left hook in all of combat sports. I know that I said it was overrated, but it's not. Okay? And let me explain what I meant by that, okay? What I meant is it's not necessarily a weapon that'll put you out every single time it lands with 100% certainty. That's one of the things that I meant. The second thing that I meant is it's the low kicks, it's the jabs, it's the right hands, it's the body shots, it's all the work he does to set it up that's kind of getting overlooked sometimes. And I feel like people give too much credit to only the left hook. But either way, I did say it was overrated, and I think it actually is getting close to the 100% range where it's putting people out. So, I mean, Alex Pereira has the best left hook in combat sports, so I'm going to put him in the best hooks tier, like the real best hooks tier. It's just that even though he hits hard, even though he's a big dude, there's too much technique, okay? It's too clean. It's too good. Much better hook than Josh Emmett, but it's not as meaty. Next up, we're going to go with Ilia Topuria for the best right hook in combat sports. That's right. I think Ilia Topuria has the best right hook in combat sports right now. Now, maybe I'm giving these MMA fighters too much credit because maybe there are boxers with better right hooks. I don't know if there's a boxer with a better left hook, but there might be. But either way, Ilia Topuria, at this point, if you get hit clean by his right hook, I feel like you have the same ability to survive as you would an Alex Pereira left hook that lands clean, which is basically slim to none. All right, it's the same right hook that he landed on Jai Herbert. It's the same right hook that he landed on Alexander Volkanovski. It's the same right hook that he landed on Damon Jackson a while ago, who he did fold with body shots, but it was the right hook that really killed him in the end. Yeah, I think that if there's anyone that has the ability to take out Max Holloway, it is a guy like Ilia Topuria if he lands the same sort of shot he landed on Volk. Now, people are going to be saying things like, he ain't landing that on Max. I know Volk has a bit of a different style of defense, but Ilia Topuria setting up that shot is inevitable. Like, he probably will land that shot at some point, at some time. The question is, can Max eat it? And I don't know. But he's got the boxing. He's got the combinations. He's got the body shots to make you think low, and then the next thing comes up, and the next thing you know, you're looking up at the bright lights. He is legitimately the only person in the UFC outside of, the heavier weight classes that can put Max's lights out just because of how deadly the right hook is. So we're going back up to the H here, though. Dustin Poirier. That's right. The P-head has some big old power, and he's got some meaty hooks. That's right. Dustin Poirier is guilty for slugging at the hip sometimes. Now, Dustin is seen as someone that's pretty finesseful in his striking. I always saw him as someone that's more finesseful than Justin Gaethje in the way that he boxes, where Gaethje just kind of, looks to the canvas and throws his big meaty hooks, which for that reason I'll put Gaethje in the A tier too. But Dustin Poirier, I mean, it's like this man's cooking a steak sometimes with the way that he's throwing these hooks in the pocket. He'll literally have his hands by his hips, and he's just simply slugging back and forth. And there's not like this beautiful flowing technique. It's just pure meat on the shots. And he makes it work because he's tough. He has a good chin. He's got a lot of power. And it's inevitable. That's the thing about these guys that have big, meaty hooks. They're inevitable. They feel like, listen, if I hit you with one of these, you're done. And that's the thing. Never underestimate the ability to just go in there, see red, and just throw a big one. Okay? Because that's literally what my game plan would be if I fight one of these MMA YouTubers. If I fight one of these MMA YouTubers, you can't go in there messing around, okay? You can't go in there trying to win the outside foot battle. You can't go in there trying to go jab for jab, band for band. You can't be doing any of that bullshit. You got to bite down to the mouthpiece. You got to trust in your ability. You got to put him on the back foot. You got to freaking bite down, look down to the canvas, close your eyes and pray, and toss a big one over the top, okay? Like a sack of potatoes. And Dustin Poirier, he looks like he's... I love the idea of... It's like you're throwing a sack of potatoes over a wall sometimes, with the way that these guys throw their punches. Speaking of potatoes, Sergei Pavlovich, I'm sure he eats a lot of them. And he also looks like he's throwing sacks of potatoes when he throws his big meaty hooks. Okay? Sergei Pavlovich, man, is talked about as being like this really technical heavyweight boxer. I remember when he was fighting Tom Aspinall, or even before he fought Tom Aspinall, people used to say, yeah, but I think he beats Ngannou because he's more technical than Ngannou. Really? Have you seen a Sergei Pavlovich fight? Sergei Pavlovich, who I'm going to put in the fucking S tier just because he's a heavyweight, is literally a big slugger. Like, look at his fight with Tai Tuivasa and Derek Lewis and tell me that there's any fucking technique there. He literally looks like he's a crazy man brawling on the street. All right, so give me a break about this technical Sergei shit. Sergei Pavlovich, when he's throwing his straight shots, looks pretty good, and he did clip Tom Aspinall with a good hook. Every now and then, he's capable of putting it all together, and if you see him shadowboxing, it looks like he's a technical maestro. But in the cage, this dude will just, on the flip of a dime, just start brawling, slugging, slinging from the hips, and there's a lot of meat on these shots. And also, different style of power to Francis Ngannou, where Ngannou hits you clean. It's a weird power to where you're just out cold right away. Sergei Pavlovich hits you clean. It's more of a thud. It's like Josh Emmett. It's just the pure force. It's like the holy shit force. On to the next one. This might be controversial, but it's actually Izzy. Israel Adesanya, Mr. Technical Maestro, is sometimes guilty of just strictly leaning back, closing his eyes, looking like he's about to cry, and just loading up on big, long, winging hooks. And to be honest, it works. There's a lot of power on these shots, but it doesn't look so technical. It's crazy. You'll see Izzy, and you'll see his, like, Matrix moments, and he's leaning back, and he's closing his eyes, and it looks like there's a fly stuck in his eye, and then he finally catches someone at the end of his 80-inch reach or whatever. But he's not just looking at his opponent the whole time and measuring them, and Joe Rogan will act like he's measuring them right now. Holy crap. But he's not really measuring them. At the end of the day, Izzy's doesn't get enough credit for his big meaty hooks. Last but not least, Max Blessed Holloway. That's right. Pillow hands Max. Not so pillow-handed Izzy. When he sits down on a shot and points down at the canvas in a fit of rage, goes Edgar mode Holloway, counted up Holloway, and starts slugging for the fences. I'm pretty sure he landed that hook, or maybe it was an overhand on Gagey. But it's kind of in the middle of a hook and an overhand, a bit of a right hook. But either way, when Holloway sits down on a shot, like that same hook that he hit TKZ with, I mean, he generates ridiculous power. And it's also in these moments, he's got this little Edgar mode rage going on where he's pissed off and he's turning red-faced. And again, it's just he's putting absolutely everything into these shots. And when he's able to do that, again, he's able to lay people the fuck out. So I got to put Max Holloway, unironically, in the S tier for big meaty hooks when he slugs. Okay? So hope you guys enjoyed the video. Until next time.